"Mom, stop acting like a victim." That's what he said. My son. The boy I raised alone. The kid whose lunch money I used to borrow from my own gas tank. He looked at me like I was embarrassing. Like I didn't belong at his engagement dinner. And when I told him, "Ryan, I'm still your mother," he leaned back in that expensive leather chair and said, "No, you're just someone I used to live with." Yeah, that's when I knew. Money hadn't just changed his lifestyle. It changed his last name, his tone, his spine, and apparently, his mother. But what he didn't know? 2 weeks later, his wife would be the one calling me at 2:17 a.m., crying, begging. Let me take you back. Before the country club, before the private jets, before the "we summer in the Hamptons" nonsense. It was just me and Ryan in a one-bedroom apartment in Ohio. His dad walked out when he was 6. No child support, no birthday cards, nothing. Just me, working double shifts at a diner. I remember one winter, the heat got shut off. I told Ryan we were camping indoors. We slept in coats and laughed about it. He used to say, "Mom, when I get rich, I'm buying you a mansion." And I believed him. Not because of the mansion, but because of the love. Ryan met Savannah in college. Old money, generational wealth. Her dad owns half of something, I don't even remember what. Shipping, oil, politics, probably all three. The first time I met her family, her mother looked at me like I was a misplaced Uber driver. She smiled that tight smile. "Oh, you're Ryan's mom." Not Mrs. Carter, not ma'am, not even by my first name. Just Ryan's mom, like an accessory. Ryan squeezed my hand under the table that night, but he didn't defend me. That was the first red flag. Fast forward 2 years, they're engaged. Big dinner at a private rooftop restaurant. Crystal glasses, 5 forks, waiters who look like they judge your credit score. I wore my best dress, navy blue, simple. Savannah's mother wore diamonds that probably paid for my apartment building. Dinner's going fine until Savannah's dad says, "So, Ryan, we've had our lawyers look into the prenup." Prenup. I almost choked on my water. Ryan didn't even blink. "Of course," he said casually. Then Savannah's mom adds, "We just need to make sure no outside influences complicate things." She looked directly at me. Outside influence. That's what I was now. Not mother. Influence. That's when I spoke up. "Ryan doesn't need protecting from his family." Savannah's smile tightened. And that's when my son, said it. "Mom, please don't start." Start? Start what? Existing? 2 days later, he called me. His voice was different, colder, polished. "Mom, I think it's better if we create some space." Space? We just come from different worlds now. Different worlds? I raised you in the same world you were born in. He cleared his throat. "Savannah's family feels like you're uncomfortable in these settings." Uncomfortable? No. Disrespected. But he chose their comfort over my dignity. Then came the final blow. "I won't be able to have you involved in the wedding planning. It's complicated." Translation: don't embarrass us. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, "Okay," and hung up. I wasn't invited. My own son's wedding. They sent pictures afterward. He looked happy. Expensive tux, oceanfront venue, fireworks. Savannah looked perfect. And I looked at my empty kitchen table and realized something. He didn't just marry into money. He divorced his past. I stopped calling, stopped texting. If he wanted space, I gave him the whole galaxy. Then one night, 2:17 a.m. Phone rings. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. Hello? Silence. Then a shaky whisper. Mrs. Carter? It was Savannah, and she was crying. Hard. Ryan is not who I thought he was. I sat up straight. What happened? And what she said next changed everything. Ryan is not who I thought he was. Savannah's voice was shaking so hard I could barely understand her. I didn't say, I told you so. I didn't say, that's what happens when you marry into ego. I just asked one thing. What did he do? Silence. Then, he controls everything. Her breathing hitched. The accounts, my schedule, who I see. He even made me fire my assistant because she talked too much. That didn't sound like my son. But then again, maybe I didn't know my son anymore. He checks my phone, Mrs. Carter, she whispered. He says it's about privacy in high-profile marriages. Privacy. That's what controlling men call surveillance. I stayed calm. Where is he right now? In New York, business trip. And you're safe? Long pause. I think so. Think so? That word said heavy in my chest. Savannah started talking, and once she started, she couldn't stop. After the wedding, Ryan quit his job, said he didn't need it anymore. Savannah's father offered him a strategic advisory role in the family company. Fancy title. No oversight. Unlimited access. He started dressing different, talking different, even laughing different. She told me something that made my stomach twist. He told me he had to cut me off because I was a liability. A liability? Like I was a lawsuit waiting to happen. He said you'd try to guilt him for money, that you'd embarrass him in front of investors. Investors? Ryan used to cry because he thought he couldn't afford prom tickets. Now he's worried about investors? Then Savannah said something that changed the whole narrative. He's moving money. That made me go very still. What kind of money? She lowered her voice. My father's. Apparently, Ryan convinced her dad to let him manage a private expansion project. Offshore accounts, shell companies, transfers labeled as consulting fees. Savannah found discrepancies. When she confronted him, he didn't yell. He smiled and said, You wouldn't understand. This is grown-up stuff. That's when she knew. He wasn't just adapting to power. He was intoxicated by it. Savannah found emails, encrypted ones. She shouldn't have had access. One name kept popping up. A woman. Not romantic, financial. The kind of person wealthy men hire when they don't want their names connected to messes. She confronted Ryan again, and this time he snapped. Not physically, but verbally. You think your daddy built this empire without bending rules? She said his eyes looked cold, strategic, like he'd already calculated her reaction. He told me if I ever tried to expose him, I'd destroy my own family's reputation. That's not anger. That's leverage. Why are you telling me this? I finally asked. Because here's the thing. She helped push me out. She watched it happen. She never defended me either. And she knew that. I thought you were the villain, she admitted. Ryan said you manipulated him his whole life. That one stung, but I stayed quiet. And then I started hearing him talk about you to other people. How? I asked. Like you were disposable. Disposable? That word again. She took a breath. You're the only person he doesn't see as competition. I almost laughed. Sweetheart, he erased me. No, she said softly. He's afraid of you. That caught my attention. Why? Because you're the only person who knew him before the money. And money had become his armor. Here's something most people don't understand. When a poor kid suddenly gets access to wealth, it doesn't just change their bank account, It messes with their identity. Ryan spent years feeling small, less than, embarrassed. Now he had power. And instead of healing that insecurity, he weaponized it against everyone, including me. Savannah lowered her voice again. He made me sign new documents last week. What kind of documents? Asset restructuring. Translation: if something goes wrong, she takes the fall. He stays clean. And then she said it. I think he's planning something big, and I don't think my dad knows. There it was. This wasn't about marriage drama anymore. This was financial war. I had two choices. Option 1, hang up. Tell her she chose this. Let rich people destroy rich people. Option 2, step back into my son's life. Not as a mother, as a witness, and maybe as his biggest threat. Because here's what Ryan forgot. I may not understand hedge funds, I may not wear diamonds, but I survived eviction notices, debt collectors, predatory landlords, courtrooms. You don't raise a child alone for 18 years without learning how to fight smart. I asked Savannah one final question. Do you want out? Yes. Then you're going to have to be brave. Silence. I don't know how. I stood up, walked to my kitchen window, and looked out into the dark. You start by not being scared of him. Pause. And you stop underestimating his mother. Savannah came over the next morning. No makeup, no diamonds, no driver. Just a scared 28-year-old girl sitting at my kitchen table. Wild how money disappears when fear walks in. She slid a folder across the table. Bank statements, transfer confirmations, shell company registrations. The numbers made my head spin. Does your father know about any of this? I asked. She shook her head. If he finds out the wrong way, Ryan will say I'm unstable. Of course he would. Classic power move. Discredit the witness before the trial even starts. Okay, I said calmly. From now on, you don't confront him. You don't accuse. You don't panic. She swallowed. Then what do I do? You act normal. That same afternoon, my phone rang. Ryan. First time in 6 months. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Mom? His tone was controlled. Measured. Too measured. I heard Savannah stopped by. Ah, so he was tracking her. I invited her, I said evenly. Silence. Then a soft chuckle. You really should stay out of this. There it was. Not, how are you? Not, I miss you. Just territory. She's my daughter-in-law. She's my wife, he corrected sharply. And you cut me off, remember? His voice lowered. I did that to protect you. Protect me? From what? The truth? I don't need protection, Ryan. Another pause. You don't understand how this world works. Oh, that did it. I understand exactly how this world works, I replied calmly. It just doesn't impress me. Silence. The kind that hums. You always think you're smarter than everyone, he said. No, I corrected him softly. I just raised you. Click. He hung up. 3 nights later, Savannah tells me there's a charity gala. Big one. Media, investors, political names. Ryan will be there. So will her father. And guess what? I got invited. Savannah made sure of it. Ryan didn't know. Now, before you imagine some dramatic entrance, let me be clear. I didn't go to embarrass him. I went to observe. Because predators get sloppy when they think you're powerless. I wore the same navy dress from the engagement dinner. Simple, clean, unapologetic. When I walked in, Ryan saw me immediately. His jaw tightened. Savannah's father looked confused. Savannah looked terrified. I smiled like I was attending church. Ryan approached, slow, controlled. "What are you doing here?" "Enjoying free shrimp," I said casually. He didn't smile. "You're making this awkward." "No," I corrected him softly. "You are." He leaned closer. "You have no idea what you're interfering with." And that's when I saw it. Not anger, not fear, desperation. Halfway through the night, Ryan took the stage. Confident, charismatic, smooth. He talked about expansion, innovation, future investments. People applauded. Savannah's father looked proud. But I noticed something. When Ryan mentioned the new overseas development account, Savannah's father blinked, just slightly. Like that phrasing wasn't familiar. Tiny crack. Ryan stepped off stage, and I saw him glance at Savannah. Not lovingly, not warmly, but calculating, like he was checking if she'd behave. Later that night, outside, near the valet, he cornered me. "This ends now." I tilted my head. "What exactly is this, Ryan?" "You putting ideas in her head." "I didn't put anything there," I said calmly. "I just asked questions." His nostrils flared. "You've always hated that I made it." That stopped me. "Hated?" I repeated. "You were fine when I was small, when I needed you, but the second I stepped into something bigger than you—" "Oh, you don't dare," I cut in with voice steady. "You think this is about money? I've cleaned toilets for rent money. I don't worship wealth." He stepped closer. "You don't belong in this world." And that's when I said the thing he wasn't ready for. "You don't either." Silence. Loud silence. "You're pretending, Ryan. And the scariest part, you're starting to believe your own act." His jaw clenched. "You should have stayed out of this, Mom." "No," I said softly. "You should have stayed honest." Inside, Savannah's father was now speaking quietly to one of his financial advisors. I watched from across the lot. Ryan followed my gaze, and for the first time, he looked nervous. Not angry, not dominant. Nervous. Because seeds had been planted, and he didn't know how deep the roots were going. Before walking away, he said something low enough only I could hear. "If you destroy this, you destroy me." I looked him dead in the eyes. "No, Ryan. You destroyed yourself the moment you decided I was disposable." He didn't respond. He just stared at me like he was seeing me clearly for the first time, not as a poor embarrassment, not as a liability, but as opposition. The next morning, Savannah called me, but this time she wasn't crying. She was shaking. "They froze one of the accounts." "Who did?" "My father's compliance team." "How much?" I asked quietly. Her voice barely came out. $27 million. And then she whispered, "And Ryan doesn't know yet." $27 million. Frozen. Compliance doesn't freeze money for fun. They freeze it when something smells wrong. Savannah was whispering on the phone. "He's in his office right now. He has no idea." "Act normal," I told her again. But normal doesn't exist when millions disappear overnight. 30 minutes later, Ryan called her. She put me on speaker. "Did you authorize a review on the Cyprus account?" His voice wasn't calm anymore. It was sharp. "No," Savannah replied carefully. "Why?" "Because someone triggered internal compliance." Internal. That means it wasn't random. It was someone inside the company. Savannah's father. The seed had grown. That night, Savannah told me something new. Ryan had changed passwords, locked her out of shared files, moved funds between secondary entities. When control freaks feel threatened, they tighten their grip. "He asked if you talked to me," she said. "What did you say?" I said no. "Good." Then she hesitated. He looked at me like he didn't believe me. Of course he didn't, because guilty people assume everyone lies like they do. Savannah did something bold. She recorded him, not secretly planting bugs, just using her phone when he didn't realize it was running. That night, they argued, and Ryan slipped. "You think your father moves money. I just move it smarter." There it was, admission without confession. Then he said something worse. "If this collapses, I walk away clean. You won't." Savannah's voice cracked in the recording. "Why would you say that?" "Because everything is in your name." Silence. Cold, calculated silence. He structured it so she was the visible signatory. He was the advisor. She was the liability. 2 days later, Savannah's father called her into his office. Ryan wasn't there. He shut the door. "Is there something you need to tell me?" She almost folded, almost protected her husband, but then she remembered the recording, and she played it. Every word, every arrogant breath. Her father didn't interrupt, didn't react. He just listened. When it ended, he asked one question. "Did your mother know?" Savannah blinked. "My mother?" "No," he corrected. "His." That afternoon, I got a call. Not from Ryan, not from Savannah, from her father. "Mrs. Carter, I believe we need to talk." His voice was different now, respectful, measured, not dismissive. I agreed to meet. His office overlooked the city, floor-to-ceiling glass, power view. He didn't offer small talk, he didn't offer coffee. He got straight to it. "How long have you suspected your son was financially reckless?" I didn't flinch. "Reckless? No." "Then what?" "Insecure." He leaned back. "Explain." So I did. I told him about the winter with no heat, about Ryan promising mansions, about humiliation turning into ambition. When someone spends their whole life feeling small, they either stay humble or they overcorrect. And you believe he overcorrected. I believe he wanted to prove he belonged, at any cost. Silence filled the room. Finally, he asked, "Would you protect him?" That question wasn't emotional. It was strategic. I took my time. "I would protect my son," I said carefully, "but I won't protect his choices." That answer changed everything. That evening, Ryan came home to a surprise. Legal counsel, forensic accountants. Savannah's father sitting at the dining table. No anger, just documents. Ryan's face drained of color. "What is this?" "A review," her father replied calmly. Ryan looked at Savannah. She didn't look away this time. He turned to her father. "You don't trust me?" And that's when her father said it. "You were supposed to be building with us, not building around us." Ryan's jaw tightened. "You think I stole from you?" Nobody answered. Silence is louder than accusation. An hour later, my phone rang. Ryan. His breathing was uneven. "They're accusing me." "Are they wrong?" I asked. Silence. Then, "You set this up." "No," I said quietly. "You did." His voice cracked slightly. "You always thought I'd mess this up." "No, Ryan," I said. "I thought you'd be better than this." He exploded. "You don't understand what it's like to finally have power." I stayed calm. I understand power just fine. The difference is, I never needed it to feel worthy. That hit him. Hard. "You're choosing them over me," he accused. "No," I replied softly. "I'm choosing truth over ego." Before hanging up, he said something that chilled me. "If I go down, I'm not going alone." That wasn't panic. That was desperation. Desperate men do reckless things. And suddenly, this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about reputation, legal exposure, family war. The next morning, Savannah texted me 3 words. They're auditing everything. 10 minutes later, another text. They found more. And then, Mom, there's a federal inquiry. Federal. This had officially left the family level. And Ryan? He was running out of exits. Federal inquiry. That word doesn't knock politely. It kicks doors in. By noon, subpoenas were issued for internal communications. By evening, 3 of Ryan's offshore entities were flagged. Savannah called me, whispering again. He's shredding documents. Digital or physical? Both. That told me everything. Innocent people don't shred, they explain. Then came the knock on my door. Ryan, not in a suit, not polished, no controlled smile. Just panic, barely stitched together. You talked to him. Not a question, an accusation. I answered questions. You had no right. I stepped aside. Come in. He didn't. He stood on my porch like a stranger. You think you're teaching me some moral lesson? No, I said calmly. Life is. His jaw twitched. You always hated that I wanted more. There's nothing wrong with wanting more, I replied. There's everything wrong with stealing it. He laughed. Sharp, bitter. You really believe that? After everything you sacrificed? After living small your whole life? Living small. That's what he thought we did? You think we were small? I asked quietly. We were, he snapped. You just don't know it. And there it was. The truth. He wasn't chasing wealth. He was running from shame. For a second, just a second, he looked tired. I just needed leverage, he muttered. Leverage for what? To never feel powerless again. That wasn't greed. That was trauma wearing a designer suit. You could have built something real, I said softly. I did, he barked. I made them see me. No, I corrected. You made them fear you. Silence. His breathing slowed, then hardened again. If I go down, I'm not going alone. There it was again, the threat. You put signatures where they needed to be, he continued. You attended that gala. You influenced conversations. I stared at him. You're trying to drag me into this? His eyes didn't move. Desperate people don't bluff. That night, Savannah showed up with a suitcase. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just exhausted. He said if I cooperate fully, I'll ruin us both. Us? I asked. She laughed weakly. There is no us anymore. She sat down heavily. I filed for separation. That hit differently, because now this wasn't internal damage, this was public collapse. You're doing the right thing, I told her. She shook her head. It doesn't feel right. It feels like betrayal. No, I said gently. Betrayal is what he did when he made you the shield. 3 days later, it hit the headlines. Federal irregularities under federal review in Carter Wellington Holdings. They didn't name Ryan yet, but insiders knew. Phones started buzzing, investors pulled back. Savannah's father went into damage control mode. Ryan? He went quiet. Too quiet. He asked to see me. Neutral place. Empty park near my old apartment. The same place he used to ride his bike. Full circle. He looked smaller there, less empire, more boy. They're offering a deal, he said. What kind of deal? If I cooperate, provide internal documentation, it reduces the charges. Charges. It was real now. And, I asked quietly, they want testimony against senior executives, too. And? He swallowed. Savannah's father. Ah, there it is. Scorched earth. They're trying to flip you, I said. They're trying to save themselves. And you? I asked quietly. What are you trying to do? He looked at the ground. I don't know anymore. That was the first honest thing he'd said in months. You want the truth? I asked him. He didn't answer. You weren't embarrassed of me because I was poor. He finally looked up. You were embarrassed because I reminded you of who you used to be. His jaw tightened. You think I don't know you? I carried you when you had asthma attacks. I worked double so you could go to college. I saw your shame before you even had words for it. Silence. Heavy. I cut you off because you knew before you started pretending, I continued softly. His eyes glistened. But he blinked it away. You don't understand what it's like to be at the table with sharks, he muttered. I stepped closer. You don't survive sharks by becoming one. They're giving me 48 hours, he said, to decide. Who I protect. That sentence carried everything. Himself, his wife, her father, or the truth. Protecting yourself isn't the same as saving yourself, I told him. He looked tired. Really tired. For a second, I saw my son again. Not the strategist, not the manipulator, just the scared kid who hated feeling less than. Mom, he said quietly. And that word hurt more than anything else. Is there a way back? I didn't sugarcoat it. There's always a way back. Pause. But you're going to lose everything you built the wrong way. He nodded slowly. Maybe for the first time, he understood. The next morning, Savannah called. They made arrests. Who? She exhaled. Not him. Pause. He turned over everything. He chose. But that choice came with consequences. When Ryan handed over the files, it shifted everything. Emails, transfer trails, internal messages, offshore routing instructions. He didn't just cooperate, he unraveled it. Senior executives were implicated. 2 board members resigned within 72 hours. Savannah's father wasn't charged, but he was publicly investigated. And Ryan? He wasn't cleared, he wasn't innocent, but because he turned early, because he provided documentation before indictment, he avoided prison. Instead, massive financial penalties, permanent industry ban, public record, reputation destroyed. For someone who built their identity on power, that was worse than jail. This time, they used his name. Ryan Carter cooperates in federal financial probe. Cooperates. Not mastermind, not architect, but not clean either. Some called him a whistleblower, some called him an opportunist, most called him reckless. He didn't leave the house for weeks. Savannah finalized the separation quietly. No dramatic courtroom war, just signatures. Assets untangled, damage assessed. She came to see me one last time. She looked lighter, still hurt, but steadier. I hated you at first, she admitted. I smiled slightly. I know. I thought you were holding him back. And now? I asked. She exhaled weakly. I think you were the only thing holding him together. That one stayed with me. She thanked me, not for exposing him, but for not protecting the lie. Then she walked out of my kitchen, the same kitchen where this all started. Full circle. 2 months later, Ryan knocked on my door again. No accusations this time, no posture, just humility. I sold the house, he said. Of course he did. Image maintenance wasn't necessary anymore. I'm renting an apartment downtown. He looked around my small living room, the same one he once felt embarrassed by. You still have that heater? He asked quietly. I nodded. We both remembered that winter. Silence filled the room, but it wasn't hostile this time. It was reflective. I thought money would fix it, he finally said. Fix what? I asked gently. That feeling. He didn't have to explain which one. I knew. The smallness, the comparison, the quiet shame of growing up without. I thought if I could sit at their table, I'd finally matter. I looked at him carefully. You always mattered. He swallowed. You don't understand. No, I said softly. You don't. That made him look up. You think we were small because we didn't have money, I continued. But you never saw what I saw. He didn't speak. I saw resilience. I saw grit. I saw a boy who could survive anything. His jaw tightened. I saw strength. Tears built in his eyes this time, and he didn't blink them away. I hurt you, he said. Not defensive, not strategic, just honest. Yes, I replied. He nodded slowly. I called you a liability. Yes. I made them think you'd embarrass me. Yes. He looked down. I was embarrassed of myself. There it was, finally. Truth without ego. Here's what people don't talk about. Redemption isn't cinematic. It's quiet. It's slow. It's uncomfortable. Ryan started working again. Not in finance. Not in executive offices. He took a compliance consulting role for a small firm. Ironic, right? He volunteered at a financial literacy nonprofit. He started therapy. Real therapy. Not image control. He stopped trying to look powerful and started trying to be accountable. One evening, months later, we were sitting on my porch. No media, no headlines, just sunset. You know what's crazy? He said. What? I finally feel stable. Not rich, not powerful. Stable. He looked at me. I spent my whole life trying not to be small. I smiled gently. You were never small. He exhaled like he'd been holding that breath for 20 years. For the first time, he believed it. Money didn't change my son. It revealed him. And losing everything was the first honest thing that ever made him whole.